You stole that car. I watched you take it. I didn't steal anything. This is my car. Imagine being accused of stealing your own property, simply because you refused to let your neighbor's entitled son get behind the wheel. It's early morning in Maple Ridge Estates. A tall black man stands in his garage, enjoying the quiet, sipping his coffee. Then the pounding starts, angry, relentless fists slamming into the garage door. Outside, the neighborhood's self-appointed royalty, Vivian Hartman, is in full meltdown, shouting at the top of her lungs that he's hiding stolen property. Behind her, her teenage son watches with a smug expression, still bitter that Elijah had refused to let him just take the Mustang for a spin. But what Vivian doesn't realize is who exactly she's threatening. 3 weeks earlier, Elijah had moved to Maple Ridge Estates after being promoted to chief of police. After 2 decades of apartment life, he finally purchased his first home, a modest 3-bedroom house with a simple yard and a 2-car garage. Nothing excessive, just enough space for the thing he cherished most, a 1969 Ford Mustang Boss 429 in grabber blue. He and his late father had rebuilt the car piece by piece, taking 5 patient years to perfect every bolt, every curve, every gleam of chrome. It had been their final project together before cancer took his father's life. The car wasn't just a vehicle, it was a heartbeat that roared when the engine turned over. Since moving in, Elijah had only taken it out 3 times. Most neighbors waved or admired it from afar. Most neighbors, but not Vivian. She lived 4 houses down with her 17-year-old son and treated the neighborhood like her personal kingdom. The very first day they met, she marched to his doorstep carrying a thick binder labeled HOA Rules and Expectations, chastising him because his moving truck had remained parked 2 minutes past community guidelines. Vivian, with her perfectly bleached hair and tight, brittle smile, spoke like someone used to instant obedience. "We maintain order here in Maple Ridge Estates," she said. "I expect the same from you." Elijah accepted the binder, nodded politely, and said nothing about his job. He liked to keep work and home separate. The last thing he needed was people acting differently because he wore a badge. The trouble started during his 2nd week. Elijah was in the garage polishing the Mustang when Logan Hartman wandered up the driveway with the swagger of someone who believed nothing could be denied to him. His expensive sneakers squeaked on the concrete. "Nice car," Logan said, dragging his fingers along freshly buffed paint. "Boss 429, Cobra jet engine," Elijah replied, gently lifting the boy's hand away. "Just finished waxing that panel." Logan's eyes gleamed with hunger, that careless craving of someone who always gets what he wants. "You should let me take it for a spin," he said. "I'm a great driver. Got my license last month." Elijah almost laughed. A teenager with 30 days of driving was not getting behind the wheel of a 400-horsepower muscle car. Not ever. Logan's expression darkened. "My dad pays a lot of money in HOA fees." "A lot? That means we basically own this street. Technically, that makes me part owner of everything on this street." The logic was so ridiculous that Elijah had to take a moment. "That's not how property ownership works," he said calmly. "We'll see," Logan muttered, stomping away. 20 minutes later, Vivian appeared at Elijah's front door dressed like she was preparing for a courtroom battle. Crisp white slacks, navy blazer adorned with an HOA pin, and heels clicking sharply across the porch like warning shots. "Mr. Grant," she said without greeting, "my son tells me you were rude to him." "I told him he couldn't drive my car," Elijah replied. Vivian's lips tightened, thinning to a line of annoyance. "Logan is a very responsible young man," she insisted. "When he expresses interest in something, the neighborly thing to do is accommodate him. We believe in community here. Have you ever had someone try to guilt trip you into giving them something that clearly belongs to you? What would you do if a neighbor demanded to borrow your car, then acted offended when you simply said no? Before we continue, tell us in the comments, where are you watching from right now? We love seeing our viewers from all around the world. And if you agree that no means no, tap that like button and subscribe to Story Arc. Because sometimes people say community when what they really mean is control. "That's a vintage car worth more than most people's annual salary," Elijah said. "No one drives it but me. We'll see if that vehicle even meets HOA compliance." Vivian said with a sharp sniff. I'll be reviewing the regulations tonight, and review them she did. Over the next few days, Elijah began receiving violation notices that were nothing short of laughable. One claimed his Mustang was too loud, even though he hadn't driven it anywhere near her house. Another stated that the paint color was excessively vibrant and could distract other drivers. The last accused him of owning a commercial vehicle because, according to her reasoning, it could potentially be used for racing. Elijah responded to each notice with calm, meticulous clarity, citing the HOA bylaws line by line. Every accusation she launched collapsed under actual policy, and each time she failed, Vivian grew more furious. By the next Saturday, things escalated again. Logan returned, this time flanked by two friends. Elijah was mowing the lawn when he saw the three boys approaching. "Hey, Mr. Grant," Logan called out in a falsely friendly voice. "We were thinking you might reconsider letting us take the Mustang around the block. Just once." "The answer is still no, Logan," Elijah replied, steady and unshaken. One of the boys, a broad-shouldered kid in a football jersey, stepped forward. "Come on, man. Don't be such a hard-ass. What's the big deal?" Elijah stood up straight, posture firm with the quiet authority earned from 2 decades in law enforcement. "You boys need to head home," he said. "This conversation is over." They lingered just long enough for Logan to shoot a glare that promised this wasn't the end. Then they walked away. An hour later, Vivian was back, this time dragging her husband, Gregory Hartman, behind her. Gregory looked exhausted, clearly wanting no part in any of this. But Vivian was already in full attack mode. "You threatened my son and his friends," she snapped. "Gregory is a lawyer. We could sue you for emotional distress." Gregory visibly flinched at his wife's words, though he said nothing. Elijah already knew the truth. Gregory was a tax attorney. He probably hadn't stepped into a courtroom in years. "I asked them to leave my property," Elijah said evenly. "That's well within my rights." Vivian's eyes thinned to sharp, angry slits. "We'll see what the HOA board has to say about this." She spun on her heel and stormed down the driveway, heels cracking against the pavement, while Gregory trailed behind, offering Elijah a quiet, apologetic shrug. Elijah didn't bother watching them go. He already knew she wasn't done. The next HOA meeting became a full-blown show. Elijah didn't attend, but his next-door neighbor, Sandra Mills, filled him in the following morning. According to her, Vivian Hartman stood in front of the board for 40 uninterrupted minutes, warning them about the dangerous influence that had moved into Maple Ridge Estates. She'd even prepared a PowerPoint presentation, complete with dramatic slides about street racing culture. Sandra had laughed so hard she nearly spilled her coffee. "She actually called you a hooligan," she told him. Elijah responded, "The only people causing trouble here are Vivian and her son." Sandra nodded. She didn't like hearing that. After that, the harassment only intensified. Elijah began finding anonymous notes wedged under his windshield wipers. His garbage cans mysteriously tipped over every trash day. A city notice appeared claiming his grass was half an inch too long. Every week brought some new petty strike. Then came the morning everything crossed the line. It was a quiet Saturday. Elijah sat in his kitchen, sipping coffee and savoring a rare moment of peace until he heard voices outside. He looked through the window and saw Logan again, flanked by the same 2 friends as before. They were taking selfies beside the Mustang through the garage window. Elijah set his cup down and stepped outside. "Logan," he said, voice calm but firm, "you need to leave, now. It's just pictures." "Bro," Logan said with a smirk, "for Instagram. My followers love cars like this. Get off my property." "I won't ask again." Logan's cheeks flushed with anger. "You know what? Screw you. That car should be mine anyway. You're too old to even appreciate it. Bet you can't drive it right." Elijah's tone dropped lower, quiet, controlled, the same tone his officers called his chief voice. "Leave now, or I will call the police," Logan scoffed. "My mom already did. She said you stole this car." Elijah felt his stomach tighten, not in fear, but frustration. Of course, Vivian had found the title paperwork. The Mustang was still legally under his late father's name. The transfer had been delayed, and Vivian would use anything she could twist. Yeah, Logan continued, puffing out his chest. She said the cops are coming to impound it. Maybe someone who deserves it will buy it at auction. That's when the sirens sounded. 3 patrol cars barreled down the street, lights flashing in piercing red and blue. Vivian burst out of her house like a victorious general, waving her phone triumphantly. "Officers!" she shouted, pointing directly at Elijah. "He's right there! The thief is right there!" The lead patrol car screeched to a stop. Officers Rivera and Lang stepped out first, followed by Sergeant Hayes and the rookie, Officer Chen. The moment Rivera saw the man standing beside the Mustang, calm, composed, utterly unbothered, his expression shifted from alertness to stunned disbelief. "Chief Grant," Rivera said, his voice tight, controlled, and suddenly very careful. "Morning." "Rivera," Elijah replied, hands relaxed at his sides. "Beautiful day, isn't it?" Behind him, Vivian Hartman froze mid-step. "Chief?" "What do you mean, Chief?" she stammered. Officer Lang cleared his throat, choosing his words carefully. "Ma'am, this is Chief Elijah Grant. He's the chief of police for the entire city." The color drained straight out of Vivian's face. Logan immediately backed up, suddenly fascinated by his phone screen. Gregory Hartman arrived moments later, looking like he wished the concrete would swallow him whole. "But the car," Vivian sputtered. "The registration didn't match. I checked. It belonged to my father," Elijah said, voice level and controlled. "He passed 6 months ago. I inherited it, and the title transfer is still being processed. Would you like to see the will or the death certificate?" I didn't know," Vivian whispered, shaking. "Rivera," Elijah said, turning to the officer without raising his voice. "Take a full report. This woman filed a false stolen vehicle complaint and has been harassing me for 3 weeks because I refused to let her son drive my personal property." "Yes, sir." Rivera opened his notepad immediately. "Wait," Vivian cried. "It was a misunderstanding." "You called 911, Elijah replied, tone low but cutting. "You said you verified the registration." "That is not a misunderstanding. That is a deliberate lie." Sergeant Hayes' body camera blinked red as he shifted toward Logan. "Young man, were you involved?" Logan tried to keep his bravado. "Yeah, so what? He's been a jerk since he moved in. Thinks he's better than us." "Logan, stop!" Gregory hissed, mortified. But Logan only got louder. "My mom runs this neighborhood. She could buy and sell you. When my dad hears about this, we'll sue the whole department." Officer Chen's eyes flicked nervously to Elijah. Elijah gave a single calm nod. "Keep recording." Within an hour, neighbors had gathered up and down the street, watching the consequences unfold in silence. Vivian Hartman was cited for filing a false police report and misuse of emergency services. Logan received an official warning for trespassing and harassment. Elijah met Vivian's gaze one last time. "You called the police because your son wanted to take my car. That's not community. That's abuse." Shaken, humiliated, and without another word to stand on, Vivian stormed off with Gregory and Logan, the quiet judgment of the neighborhood following her all the way home. Days later, the body cam footage spread online, and her downfall was complete. The HOA board voted unanimously to remove her as president, ending years of intimidation, petty fines, and power games. In court, Judge Mariel fined her $8,000, assigned 50 hours of community service, and made it clear that wasting police resources was no harmless act. By the end of the week, a for sale sign stood in the Hartman's yard. For the first time since Elijah moved in, the silence around his home felt peaceful, not pressured, not tense, just calm. The false queen was gone, and Maple Ridge Estates finally felt balanced again. If you believe every tyrant eventually falls, smash that like button and subscribe to the Final Boundary Tales, because when the tyrants fall, the truth stands tall.